What? 8 months? Terrible behavior. Guys, let me just fix myself before. 8 months, guys? No. I just decided today, let us do an episode. Wow, 8 months. Well, we are here. Hope everyone has been well on an interesting journey, still showing yourself self-love and grace and care, self-care. That was in chapter 6. The last time we chatted was on the power of self-care, nurturing yourself, and we were talking about harp music, how I play harp music in the shower, candles, all the nice things, and I think just talking with some friends, talking about the podcast and just things that we experience. And I'm like, you know what? No, let's do an episode. I think it's time, And here we are, peeps, alive and well. And we are well on our way to our 10 chapters of this podcast. Yeah, love unconditioned. Beautiful, beautiful. We are on chapter 7. Today will be, I also made some very quick notes, guys, so bear with me. Let's show each other some grace. Today we are talking about embracing our wholeness, the freedom of being fully human. We forget that we are all experiencing this for the first time. Look, yes, you might have been here before and all of those technical things, but in this path, in this journey, this current life path that you've chosen, I would say it's your first time, and there may be things that we pick up as, it's a bit of a flaw, or I don't like that part of me. We've spoken about, or I've shared quite a few times about my brain, and how there were times like when I was a child, I would like want to stop it, or I might have like done research before about what it means, or like how to get rid of it. I've spoken about self-diagnosing, if there are things or flaws that I know of, or that I've been aware of myself, how to fix it, stuff like that. And I think this part of wholeness that we are on, this journey of self-love and self-care, and embracing ourselves, embracing the imperfections, understanding wholeness. I might have asked ChatGPT, I think last year sometime, what does wholeness feel like? Something along those lines, like if I were to feel whole, what would that feel like? And I think it said something along the lines of being so complete that you see yourself in everything around you. Something philosophical and spiritual in that effect, but yeah, something along those lines. You feel complete. Oh, and that nothing exists outside of you. Oh, that was something so powerful. And some feelings that she said was something along the lines of feeling at ease with yourself. You're taking life as it comes. There's a softness in your chest, like things like that. And I thought, you know what, I'd like to feel more whole. I'd like to feel more complete. And each time when I go through life and I forget that I'm complete, I go to that feeling of, you know what, nothing exists outside of me that isn't already there. Easier said than done. Easier said than done, but all good. Let's start with oh, this is gonna be very vulnerable. But as we know on this podcast, vulnerability and honesty is how we connect. But short story, I think not a lot of people know this, but so just before my mom passed, she broke the news to me that she was just diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and my world just stopped, just completely stopped, and went down to the Eastern Cape to go and see her, and we got some time to connect. We spoke about life. We connected really well. Just myself and her. It was nice just to really, no crowds, no people, no to-do lists. And it was beautiful. Um, the thing that did upset me, so I think I was there for like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, I can't remember. I was still working from there, and I told her I'm going to, let me just go back to Joburg, and then um, I'm going to come back. That was the agreement. Because she wasn't doing well. I thought, what, she'll need some hands there. And I don't know if I came back to Joburg and then we went to KZN or something like that. But it was a while. I thought there's some things I really need to sort out. Maybe even get a nanny, or what do you call it? A nurse, a live-in nurse, something like that. So I was doing all of that, doing a lot of prep work, and she really wasn't doing too good, and I still thought, what, um, let me just check on the car, get the car fixed, because I think we had some issues with the brakes, and in all of the planning and in all of the craziness, um, I did get the call one evening that she passed. And look, I didn't feel, there wasn't even time to feel guilty in the moment. There wasn't even time to beat myself up in the moment. For me in that moment, it was just about grieving and the sadness and things like that. But I think post the grieving was the guilt of not being there, you know, um, not being there, not being with her when she passed. To make matters even worse, my aunt who took her in for a while was telling me that she asked for me. Oh, that just broke my heart. It added quite a bit, on that guilt layer that was already there, and I had to really just have a deep conversation with myself that I don't even necessarily think it was a mistake. It definitely wasn't a mistake, but if I had the choice, obviously I would choose to be there. But just the guilt of, firstly, not being there, secondly, telling her that I'm coming back, thirdly, having my aunt tell me that she asked for me. I had to really reconcile within myself that I'm not a bad person. I don't think my mom left with that thought of like, I'm a bad person. Where's he when he said he's coming? Cool, I'm gonna go now. And I don't think it was anything. I think it was just a self-made tag, that I created, a self-created tag, which is now compartmentalized into guilt, or I should have planned better, I should have this, I should have that. But in actual fact, I really had to tell myself I did the best that I could in any given moment, post her telling me that she's got the cancer and all of that, I always just did the best that I possibly could. And look, it's not de- debilitating. Crippling. It's definitely not crippling, but there are moments, where when I'm quiet and I think about her, and the last moments where, I think it would have been nice to be there, for her to also sort of feel like, okay, I can let go, you know, my child is here, and things like that. But that for me was a big sort of moment where I had to tell myself a story to make me feel better, you know. And I hope that's some type of inspiration to you, where you might have wanted to do something, you might have wanted something to be a specific way, and it didn't work out, and it's not your fault. Um, I think there's many times we tell ourselves that I should have been there, I should have done this, I should have studied this, I should have done that, and that creates a whole different persona of um, that I'm not complete, or that I'm not perfect, and all of that. When in actual fact, you do everything that you can to the best of your ability in any given moment. I think if that's ever something that you can tell yourself to reconcile with a perceived flaw, when I think about the brain not saying R in the typical way, or many things. I don't know if I spoke about my unibrow once, where I actually had friends that had more of a problem with my unibrow, and sometimes, like, when we're young and playing with stuff, they'd cut it off. When I think it is so beautiful to have it. It's not like completely across, but if you really had to like look in, like deep into my face, you'd see that I possibly have a unibrow. And look, I think for me, it is not about fixing yourself. It's not about doing something. And I've said this so many times before, you don't have to lose weight for you to feel lovable, and to feel like you can be accepted, and all of that. Do it for you. If there's something that you want to do and change, do it for you, because you might not even get that acceptance from your spouse, your parent, your child, your teacher, people in the community. I don't think any of us are fully accepted everywhere. I That's just something that that I pick up just in today's society. If you lose too much weight, people will be like, "Are you sick? Are you okay? What's happening?" And it's like, gosh, should I go through all of that losing weight just to be met with more judgment and more feelings of imperfection? There's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with you. And once you start believing that, people start to see it also. People start to latch onto it. I know many people in my life that aren't worried about what people say, and not being perfect, and all of that. I admire that. There's sometimes where I'd be like, oh, maybe my hair could be just a little bit more moist. There was this other guy that when we walk to and get coffee in the morning, there's this guy with like big hair, and he's got such defined curls, and I look at it with such admiration. Young guy, looks like a teenager, but it is just beautiful, and the hair is just like bouncy, and it looks so beautiful. And then I always just, I think for me, you can admire that, and you can even tell somebody, I love your hair, I love the way you look, I love this, I love that about you. But don't forget you in the process, and I know, guys, I know everywhere I go, I get people who tell me about my hair, and it is just it's heartwarming, but I think we can sometimes get so attached to it, so attached that if someone doesn't compliment you about your hair or the way you've lost weight or the way your muscles look or whatever the case is, your new tattoo, um, we start seeking that validation in places where it doesn't matter, in places where you might not even get it. You know what I mean? And puts us into such a negative spiral when in actual fact, you need to uh, 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 surface that validation for yourself every single day if that's what it takes, you know. Um, what does wholeness actually mean? Myths could be I'll love myself when I can lose weight. We've said that before. I will love myself when I can get that promotion. I love myself when I can find a nice partner. I love myself when I can become more confident, when I stop making mistakes. When in actual fact, wholeness can actually be that you embrace your um, imperfection. There's nothing imperfect about you. But in the eyes of the world, it could be, that sometimes you are a little bit late. There's some things you can't control, please. But, there are certain things that scare you, and that's okay. There are certain instances where you've had a long day and you're tired and you just want to sleep. And honestly, that is okay. That is okay when you aren't feeling your 110% self at any given time. We tend to, when we've failed at something, failed at a project, can't do certain things, that we base our life's decision around that, that is blown up more than, I am a nice person. I cook really nice, I can dance really good. There was once where, in one of my old diaries, where I wrote a love letter to myself. And I had to list, like, in each line what I love about myself. And there were some things in there that one day when I found it, I was like, oh, this is so cute, things in there about my hair, things in there about my smile. Getting a little bit shy now, but things in there about dancing, things that I wouldn't necessarily blow up and broadcast. But it felt nice to write that love letter to myself. I don't always do it, but I think we can do more of that. It just boosts that self-love, that confidence. It boosts the immunity, if you wanted to get technical now. But yeah, there's also a bit of magic in, I actually wrote here, being strong and vulnerable. I think that it's so contradictory, but it can actually, you can possess both. You can be both strong and vulnerable in a situation in the same moment. You can be brave and scared in the same moment. Also, you can be a brave person and have scared moments. You can be an ambitious person and have scared and tired moments, when people are doing their doctors, their honors, their masters, these not necessarily extreme, personalities or extreme situations, but having tired moments and having moments where you are feeling low in energy. Give yourself that grace, guys. Um, some things that I kind of feel like where we reject certain parts of ourselves is where, from a childhood perspective, you were bullied for. I know for a fact. I would be told that, I talk like a girl, lots of stuff. Oh my gosh, I can sit here and list all of that. But I think in moments where we are in our adult years, there are moments that there are parts of ourselves that we reject because of those. Look, I think we spoke a lot about in the podcast about childhood stuff and where a lot of these things come from, and the trauma and all of those things. But it's in those moments where we really have to double down and really zoom into the moments of self-love and wholeness and loving yourself so wholeheartedly. You know, I think we forget in the moments where somebody says no, or we get a no for a job offer, or someone tells us something that isn't very nice, that we latch onto that, than the moments where you can tell yourself, you know what, I did my best in that interview, I did my best with in that marriage. You know what I mean? um, I think everyone is just searching for just perfection everywhere. Perfection in the job, perfection in a marriage, perfection as being a parent. You can make mistakes and still feel that you are wholehearted and that you are lovable. You know what I mean? Just because you've made that mistake, it doesn't mean that you are any less lovable, any less worthy, any less special. Come on, guys. um, Self-reflective question. Which part of yourself have you spent the most energy trying to hide? Not even trying to hide, maybe trying to fix, trying to change, you know? There was a video I watched last night. Can't remember. I think it's called a channel called Big Thinking. And interesting thought. I don't know if I agree 100% with it, but the guy was saying, if you are striving for something, and he made the example of wanting to incorporate more gratitude into your life, it does mean that you are lacking gratitude, which already is a belief system within yourself. Now you are trying to change that by incorporating something that you don't have, and indirectly it is perpetuating the message of that you lack gratitude. Something along those lines. I don't know if I 100% agree with it, because then, okay, now how do I cultivate more gratitude? How do I, like, lose weight? Or how do I become a stronger, more confident, more brave person, if those are not the things that I want? And he was talking about affirmations. And I'm like, and he was saying, when you have affirmations in the morning, there is a part of you that believes that you need the affirmations. So now that you are doing the affirmations, it's perpetuating that you need the affirmations more and more. You know what I mean? I hope I'm making sense. And I'm like, oh no, I don't know if I believe that. If I want to generate more love in my life, more peace, more fun, more play, more positive self-talk, I believe wholeheartedly that those are the things, those are the ways in which that I can incorporate those things more, not to say that I don't want to change who I am, or that I don't accept myself, you know what I mean, and then having to put up affirmations. I believe affirmations are absolutely helpful. I believe tuning into the person that you are willing and ready to become, I think it is very helpful to have either an affirmation or a phrase that you want to repeatedly tell yourself in the morning, that you are loved, you are, and I do this a lot on this podcast, that you are lovable, you are worthy, you are magic. And I think it's such a helpful tool that can actually help shift a focus from the lack of self-love to the surplus of self-love and self-esteem, self-confidence, more love for yourself, feeling more worthy. I've done that a lot of times, where I have to actually tell myself that, you know what, I did the best that I could today, and my best is good enough. And it helps me. It really, really does. So, an interesting thing that I heard last night was that, and he was saying a lot. Look, I think he was going along the lines of accepting just who you are, and that I can absolutely buy into. Accepting exactly who you are. That notion I can absolutely buy into. but I can add a layer of um, telling myself that I am lovable and that I am worthy. I am magic. I'm made from magic. Um, and we are all one. And all of those lovely things, if that's what it takes for me to feel good, if that's what it takes for me, because nobody else is going to tell me that, you know? A lot of people depend on a spouse or a parent or a child or family member, best friend, for them to tell them that they are worthy. And you might not ever get that, you know? So depend on yourself, honey. Depend on yourself. Some practical ways. I think we might wrap up soon. I want these episodes just to be shorter, punchier, practical. Practical ways to embrace wholeness. So, replacing self criticism. I think I've shared this before on the podcast in one of the previous episodes. Instead of telling yourself what's wrong with me, ask, what is this part of me trying to teach me? Or, that's a nice one. Oh, I love the suggestion. Creating a whole self list. I love this. Two columns, things I love about myself. Remember the love letter? Yeah. I wish I could actually, I don't know where that notebook will be now. I could have read some stuff for you. Anyway, two columns, things I love about myself, and then the other column, things I'm learning to accept. Guys, that might be a difficult one for me. That might be a difficult one for me. Things I'm learning to accept, I think I've accepted my brain. Like 100%. That I've accepted. Things that I feel like I should still learn to accept is, look, I've been exercising and I might not necessarily want a six-pack. But I think I could learn to accept that I might not have a six-pack. But two things there. Having a six-pack doesn't make me more worthy, more lovable. And at the second one, I would say it shouldn't stop me from remaining fit and having an exercise routine. So there's some on the spot training, guys, learning maybe some other things I could incorporate there, learning to accept things that I'm willing to accept about myself. Gosh, I feel like that's such a closed off statement. Because I feel like maybe one day I might decide to cut my hair. Maybe one day I could decide to straighten my hair if that's a thing that I want to do. I feel like one day I might, leave corporate. I don't want to say I'm willing to accept that then I will always be in corporate. Absolutely not. Gosh, that is such a difficult one to do. Oh, yes, here's one. So I feel like my beard is quite patchy, and I think for the longest time I've been wanting to look for, ointments or treatments. How can one fully mobilize a beard? Fully or grow a full beard. And I think for the longest time, not now, like in the last few years, I think quite some time ago, I've been wanting to fix, I would say, my patchy beard. But I feel like lately I've really been accepting the fact that I might not ever grow a full beard. And what for? I think we always have to ask ourselves, why doing that? Is it for the way people perceive men with a beard, that I don't know, that they are more confident and crazy things like that. But I think for me, I feel like I can look neater and I can look well groomed with a shorter beard or without even a beard at all, stuff like that. I think that is a good one. I think that is a good one. What else? I don't want to say like bad things that I do to myself is something that I'm willing to accept. I think beating myself up in a moment where I might have slipped up, and there's that negative self-talk almost like as a default. I don't think I'm willing to accept that. Definitely not. I think that I can train myself to feel wholehearted in any given moment, that I am worthy. Guys, I like how the sun is, look how distracted I am. I can feel wholehearted in any given moment, even if I get a criticism somewhere. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm willing to learn to accept, because then that again perpetuates the behavior of when someone tells me something and it hurts me, that I should stay hurt, that I should stay a victim. I don't know. If you have a different view, let me know. But yeah, I'm also not looking for perfection, guys. I'm also not looking for that everything is always going to go well and that I'll always feel confident. Always. I think when you can hold space for yourself, when you can have grace for yourself, I think that's the most important thing. That when you do have a moment of weakness, of you're tired, it's been a long day, when you want to cry, stuff like that, absolutely feel what you must feel. But I think having this understanding that I am weak, or that this is where I'm going to stay forever, or that I can't find myself a good partner, stuff like that. No, I think you are worthy of everything that that you desire. Anything for you to live a full life, you are absolutely worthy of that. Absolutely. There was a time where myself and Larry were at a party, and we're catching up with an old friend, very old friend, and how's things and everything. We're talking. I can't remember how it got to salaries and bonuses and having shares in the company. I can't remember how it got there, but there was a comment that our friend made, something along the lines of having such a lot of money is something only, say, the executives are after, or only they are worthy of, say, bonuses that are in the millions. I'm just making an example. And I think by having that saying or that mentality almost excludes her from wealth. You know what I mean? Almost excludes her from, what? Amazing things can happen to me. And my dreams can come true, I've written a couple of things down in my diary in the last 2 weeks. Something crazy that I'm believing in the universe for. Some crazy things that, what? These are my dreams, and this is how I want to create my life. This is how I want to create abundance, stuff like that. And I feel like I deserve a good life. I deserve an amazing life. I do have an amazing life. There are things that I feel like, what? If I exit this story, that I would have loved to experience or achieve. So yeah, don't cut yourself out from having a full life, just because you have been brought up a certain way, you've been brought up in a certain community or neighborhood, you know what I mean, that you cut yourself out completely of an all expenses paid trip. You can have an amazing surprise where someone says, you know what, you've been such a good friend to me, come with me, we're gonna go on an all expenses paid trip together. Coincidence can happen, guys. Coincidences can happen. But if you remain in that energy of like, you know what, I feel good, I feel amazing, I love myself, I feel worthy, these things will just come and land in your lap just like this. Cool, we're almost finished. We're almost finished. Don't worry. I feel like these two questions we can journal. We can self-reflect on. 3 questions. What part of myself am I still trying to earn permission to be? Woo, woo. This is a good one. What part of myself am I still trying to earn permission to be? I can answer that one just straight. What part of myself am I still trying to earn permission to be? I would say my femininity. You know, there are times where I don't feel safe in a particular setting, and I feel like I, I tone down the flamboyance a little bit, just up until I can feel safe, you know. I feel like I can be safe and my authentic self amongst females, but I feel like I need to earn the permission, almost like where I see maybe if it's another guy or a man in the room that they are allowing me. You know, it feels like I have to read the room first for me to be flamboyant and full of life and sassiness and beauty. You know, yeah. It's a little bit sad, but I feel like I'm still having to ask permission for that. Um, there are in some situations where I can dress up just like, you know, a kaftan or like flowy pants and bright colors because I know I'm going to a place where I feel safe, and that I can be my feminine flamboyant self. But there are times where, like, you know what, I'll just rock up there in a brown shirt and a denim jacket like now. Or like just wear full on black, you know. But what are you trying to ask permission for you to be yourself? I think that's a nice question. Next question: what flaw have I mistaken for a disqualification? What flaw have I mistaken for a disqualification? The other one is: what would change if I accepted myself today rather than someday? I feel like if I were to, what would change if I were to accept that the rooms are always safe for me to walk into and for me to be my wholehearted self, is that people are able to see or to experience the beauty of me. Oh, that's so beautiful, what I just said. If I were to accept myself wholeheartedly today, the rooms that I walk into get to experience the magic of me. Oh, I think we can close off on that note. Look, I think overall, I want us to start moving towards that persona of wholeheartedness, embracing your imperfections and loving yourself so hard that when you walk into spaces and rooms, people are gonna be like, I want some of that. You know what I mean? Not in some type of fancy or weird way or naughty way. I want that magic of that person. You know, I walk into rooms sometimes and I see people who are just their wholehearted selves. And it's so contagious because then I can walk up to the person and say, hi, I'm Greg, experience my magic. You know what I mean? And there are times where I can see someone's actually not themselves, and my only hope is that I leave that room and I leave that space in a way where it creates an impression on them to become more of themselves. You know, I think there's such beauty in understanding that you are complete. Every single moment of every single day, you are complete. Regardless of the goals, regardless of you want to up your skills and all of that nonsense and all of the, like, I I have a guitar, guys. I can show you one day. I have a guitar. It's blue. And for the longest time, I thought to myself, you know what? I want to learn to play the guitar because there's now, I don't know, research about experiencing this when you learn an instrument. But at some point, I had to accept that, you know what? Maybe I don't have to learn the guitar right now, you know. Maybe one day when the moment is right, it's something that I can pursue, it's something that I can pick up on, but at the same time, it doesn't make me less lovable, it doesn't make me less of a human being, it doesn't make me less beautiful, it doesn't make me less magic. Those are the four things that you can remember from this entire episode, that nothing that you fail on, or not even that you failed on, nothing that you have not gotten to or that you've not completed, or anything. I personally don't think that there's anything so bad that makes you less lovable, less of who you are, less magical, and I don't know what was the fourth one now. But all of those things, unless it's like, you know, murder and those crazy things. But if you're honestly just an honest human being, and you're just going through this life with a good head on your shoulder, I think if ever there's a time that you need to tell yourself that you are loved and that you are worthy, it is now. You know, nobody's I've known of people and friends that wait for the day where they can be told that they are loved, they are lovable, and the day never comes. You know, that someone actually stands up and tells them that you have to be the one that tells yourself that. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I think this episode actually took more than what I wanted, more time than what I planned to, but I think it is an amazing time to be alive. It is an amazing time for you to be alive. It is an amazing time for you to tune into more self-love and telling yourself that you are worthy and that you are magic and that you are made from the stars and the moon and everything in between, that you are that and that is you, and you are just amazing. Keep at it. Keep telling yourself these beautiful things up until you believe it, up until it can actually register that, you know what, yes, I can finally feel that I am lovable and that I am worthy. This is what this podcast is about. Loving yourself wholeheartedly, that when people see you, they are going to be like, I want that magic. And if it doesn't come now, it's going to come. Keep telling yourself these things. Have those affirmations. Write those love letters to yourself. Know that you are complete. That is it. Mwah. Take care of yourself. Lots of love. Toodle-doo.